Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. I am honored today once again to be with Nabilah Islam. Nabilah Islam is running for Congress for Georgia District 7 for the United States Congress. She is a progressive. She is a millennial. She is a woman of color. She's everything we've been asking for to make this Democratic Party look exactly like what America looks like. Welcome aboard once again, Nabilah Islam. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I thank you so much for having me back on today.
Well, let me tell you, I'll be honest. I was reading Common Dreams, one of the progressive rags that I love to read. They have great articles. And I saw your article about you're a grassroots movement person. You campaign within the grassroots. Now we have this scare, not a scare, but a reality of the COVID-19, the coronavirus. And you are having to modify your campaign accordingly. Because of the way you run it puts you at a disadvantage. Why don't you tell me about that, and then we'll go into other features of your campaign and other things that you're doing.
So, as you said, this is a grassroots campaign. It's a people-powered campaign, and the way that we've been getting the word out and the message about our progressive campaign is by knocking on doors, and that's been a big part of our campaign. And so, with the quick spreading of the coronavirus, I was made the difficult decision to suspend all in-person canvassing, which includes door-to-door knocking, because I want my staff, my volunteers, to stay safe in this time. And I myself don't feel comfortable knocking on doors because I don't have health insurance right now. And so we are having to switch strategies to figure out how we're going to still contact all these voters. And so we're working on that right now.
Now, I want to kind of centralize on something that you just said that I hope every American understand. You are running for one of the highest offices in this land. You are running to be a congressperson representing a district. You are out there going to make laws, and you are unable to run the type of campaign that you want to run, a people based grassroots campaign, because you don't have health insurance. This shows, I think, more so than anything else, that this has a material effect not only on the individual, but on the body politic of the United States and who can be represented in the body politic of the United States. So why don't you expand on that and tell me how that affects your particular group, how that affects people from across the entire country?
Well, I'm a working American, and I am running full time for Congress right now. And I cannot afford to also pay for private health insurance. And so right now, I don't have access to health care. And I didn't realize how big of a barrier this was until I started to campaign. I actually asked for the first time in history for the FEC to allow working class candidates like me to be able to use campaign funds to pay for health care. I've been running for over a year now, and the way the laws are set up is that you can only use campaign funds until you qualify. Well, my qualifying period was about last week, and so you have candidates for running for long periods of time not being able to pay for health care. And right now, what we're seeing is these are structural barriers, and it's preventing people like me from occupying halls of power in Congress. Right now, about 40% of Congress is millionaires. The average net worth of a congressperson is $500,000. We have less than 25% of Congress is women. Less than 10% are women of color. So this is a huge barrier for people like me to run for office. I actually saw the other day that Congressman Ocasio-Cortez didn't even have health insurance when she was running for Congress. Tiffany Caban, when I actually started to tweet about this issue, mentioned that she almost didn't run because between her student loans and health insurance. And so this is something that is critical in removing this barrier, in allowing more people that have been sitting on the sidelines so that they will get involved and run for office too and represent their communities.
Interestingly, I interviewed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just before she beat the Democrat that sprung her into office, and that was one of the issues that we discussed offline, not having health insurance. And again, many Americans have been taught to believe that asking for Medicare for all is a fringe issue, a left wing issue. I think one of those things are people like you and your stories have to be out there to let Americans know it affects every facet of your life. I mean that a young woman like yourself has to think who has value to offer to the body politic has to ask, can I do this because I have health insurance or not? That makes our political system a farce. It makes our political system a farce because it says only a few who has these possibilities or these attributes can apply to be to run. So let me go to the other question because I'm happy first of all that you're asking the FEC to modify the rules to allow those of you who are running. I mean, I imagine you can pay for your campaign staff to health insurance with your campaign funds, right? But it's just
Yes.
not yours.
Exactly. So I make sure that my staffers have a stipend to pay for healthcare. However, it is against FEC rules. It would violate FEC rules if I took a stipend to pay for healthcare.
Makes absolutely no sense given that it is a job as you are running for that particular position. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense, and you wonder many times, Nabila, whether these things are done by design because this question that we're talking about is actually a sort of marginally away from Medicare for all, right? This is a particular instant where the funds could be there for you to be covered medically while you run, but
Hmm.
laws prevent you from doing so, which puts you at a disadvantage from a candidate who has health insurance or who has means. So I think there are two discussions here how the campaign laws are written and, in fact, Medicare for all. Two distinct but intersecting issues.
Hmm. Well, I'm having to do this because we don't have Medicare for all. It's unacceptable that anyone goes without access to healthcare because they can't afford it. That's why, I'm hoping the FEC will rule in my favor, and so that more working Americans like me run for office, more progressives can run for office and advocate for progressive policies like Medicare for all and work to pass them once they get to Congress.
Now, great. Let's talk a little bit about your campaign now. I mean, that issue, we wanted to get it out of the way because, again, it is an important issue. Medicare for all is an important issue. How is your campaign going? How are you finding the people within your district reacting to the progressive policies that you stand for? Then, more so than not, are the policies your district needs right now?
Well, people have been responding really positively. I think the last time I was on your show, I talked about how typically people run Republican light campaigns, and
Yes.
they're afraid to take real policy stances. I'm the only candidate in my primary that has policies on their website. I'm being very outspoken of where I stand on these issues. I'm advocating for Medicare for all, a living wage at $15 an hour, and a Green New Deal. In this working class district, need these policies to implement the transformational change that we need to uplift this community. So the people in my district, they're telling me that these policies are great. They've been waiting for these policies, that these policies resonate with them, and so we've seen so much momentum around our campaign. And so far, we've had some really great positive endorsements from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Congressman Ro Khanna, Dr. Abdullah Syed just endorsed me the other day, and so people are coalescing around our campaign and getting the word out. Folks are excited. When I was canvassing, we were canvassing about every other day. People are phone banking, text banking, and so I think that this is a moment in our community where we feel like we have someone that is really speaking up for the issues that are affecting us on a day-to-day basis.
Now, given that you're not going to be canvassing and having that touchy feely moment that is very effective with your constituents, are you raising enough money that you can kind of get on to, let's say, at least cable some cable ads, etc.?
Well, that would be nice. I we are we have been raising consistent money. We've raised over $500,000 so far.
Mm-hmm.
90% of that is from small dollar donors, from people across the district, across my state, and across the country, because they really believe in the message that I am carrying. And what's happening is, because we've suspended canvassing, which was such a crucial part of our campaign, it was actually a big part of our budget. We've been having to shift our strategy to double down on virtual outreach, such as phone banking. We're also scheduling my first virtual town hall coming up soon. And so, and I think this will be an opportunity for voters to still get to know about our campaign. With that being said, this pandemic has, obviously all campaigns are having to shift right now. I've had a couple of fundraisers and meet and greets that have been canceled that I was actually relying on of raising money off of, and now that's not happening. And so we have to, and I'm only about 70 days out from our election, so we're having to figure out how do we make up for those holes in our budget right now. And so I hope to have money to do all of those things that you said, but I feel like we will. We just got to work on it.
Well, I was, if you notice, I gave you the silent wave there for the virtual town halls, because I think a lot of young people like yourself can use not only the Zooms and the Periscopes and all these other forms. I was watching a Ilhan Omar live update today on her channel, and what I felt in watching that, she turned it on and immediately got 1,600 people to watch. It's like, you know what? If we use our tools and we tell the story, I think we can be effective. One of the issues is that a lot of us are not yet using the tools. I know you will be using the tools quite effectively as soon as I heard you talk about virtual town halls. So you are the kind of candidates we've been longing for in the progressive movement for a very, very long time. So, I mean, what I'd like to ask you to do right now is give us a statement. We know we are still hoping that we get a progressive candidate at the head of the ticket. There's a likelihood that we may not. And in that case, your value would have gone up exponentially in having to push a more moderate top of the ticket into the positions that we know are best for the body politic, not just progressives, but for us all. So that said, how do you intend on working with those who may not see the light in being as progressive as this country needs you and everybody else to be?
Well, when I am talking to people all across the district, I tell them that I'm a working class candidate running on a working class platform, and these policies that I'm advocating for are going to uplift our communities. And when I explain that to them, it makes sense, and people are inspired by that. I feel like in order to flip districts like mine, I tell people all the time that we don't need moderate candidates. We're going to need a progressive candidate that inspires people, that expands the electorate in order to flip this district. And I hope we have a more progressive person at the top of the ticket, because I believe that's how we're going to motivate people to come out and vote in large numbers. And now, if that doesn't happen, we're going to need candidates like me to push up numbers all across the country, to inspire young people to come out and vote, and working class people to come out and vote, because they'll know that they'll have champions fighting for them in Congress.
Irrespective of the top of the ticket, we do need candidates like you. So first of all, thank you for running. Now, in closing, what I'd like to ask you to do is enumerate your policies that will help not only Georgia 7, but all working class Americans, all poor Americans, all middle class Americans, in a manner that they can see. You are not some fringe candidate, but the policies you stand for are the policies, not only policies they need, but policies that they want.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm advocating Medicare for all. I believe that healthcare is a human right. I'm advocating for living wages, for economic justice, that if you work hard, you should be paid a fair living wage. I'm advocating for comprehensive immigration reform and getting ICE out of our communities. In fact, abolishing ICE. I'm advocating for criminal justice reform. We need to bring justice back into our criminal justice system and abolishing private and detention centers and decriminalizing cannabis at the federal level and making sure that we're addressing this climate crisis with bold, aggressive policies like a Green New Deal. And these are the policies that I will champion once I get to Congress, because these are the policies that are actually going to change our lives for the better.
Nabilah, let me tell you, I want to make sure that people go to your site, learn about you, but not only learn about you, but realize that the only way we are going to get our progressives in office if all people feel they have a stake in the game. Folks, where can they go to learn about you? Where can they go to support you, both through donations and otherwise?
Well, you can go to my website, which is www.nabilahforcongress.com. It's NABILAHFOR Congress.com. You can sign up to volunteer. We have remote volunteer opportunities. You can pitch in and contribute $5, $10, $20 of whatever you can. And I have all my policies on my website. Like I mentioned before, I'm the only candidate with policies in this primary. And I think you'll like what you see. And if you Google Nabilah Islam, there's a couple dozen articles about the campaign as well.
Nabilah Islam, Democratic candidate for Georgia District 7. Thank you so kindly for having been here on Politics Done Right.
Thank you for having me.